Welcome to the Volpe Report podcast, the state's premier public affairs show dedicated to the topics that matter most to Pennsylvanians. I'm your host, Chuck Volpe. Join us now as we speak to this week's guest.
The following half-hour show is a paid political program and is not endorsed by this station, management, or staff.
The following program is brought to you by Excalibur Insurance Management Services.
This is the Volpe Report, a weekly news and political interview show examining the latest local, state, and national issues with Chuck Volpe. Insightful, informative, controversial, the area's premier political talk show, the Volpe Report.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for joining the Volpe Report.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I have to just quickly say and acknowledge the fact we're in a good friend of mine's home, in his beautiful den, Bill Rosado. First of all, Mr. Speaker, as I already said, and I want to say on air, very much appreciate you taking a minute out of your busy day. You're doing the Lord's work. I'm sure people have told you whatever they're paying is not enough. You have to keep the smallest of majorities intact. And that's why Newt Gingrich, I think at one point said he can't believe the job you have done. So I appreciate you taking the time. First question. Right now, conventional wisdom says that pretty much the Democrats will take the House because that's what always happens. They take the House in the midterms. They did it to Trump in 2018. And I was looking at some interesting polls the other day from CNN, no less, on my television. I'm saying the narrative you hear from the mainstream media is so one-sided. The Democrats, it's almost like a fait accompli. They're going to take the House. And then a CNN, a pollster, put up these numbers. In 2006, which was the midterm in George W. Bush's second term, they were plus 28.
Yep.
And in 2018, during President Trump's first term, midterm, which the Democrats then took the House, they were almost plus 20. And now they're significantly underwater. So the mainstream media won't talk about it. So that's the first question. Can you explain that? But you've heard the same numbers?
Yes. Don't bet against the House Republicans. They do that every day. They have been since I was handed the gavel. It is true that we have to defy history to grow and keep the majority. Because it only happened twice in 90 years that a sitting president has picked up seats for his party in that first 2-year cycle. Brian Fitzpatrick, our other friend, congressman from Pennsylvania, I was in his district this morning, and he said, the summary is very simple. Angry people vote, and happy people generally don't. They take for granted. And so that's why that historic trend has always been true. It will not be true this year. Take it to the bank. There's a lot of factors that are very different than have ever been faced in a midterm before. I have a very boring 90-minute slideshow I could show you and your viewers, but I won't do that this morning. A quick summary is we have a great record to run on. We have delivered on our promises made, promises kept. Right now, people are getting their biggest tax refunds they've ever had. Their paychecks are going up. No tax on tips, overtime, seniors on Social Security, all those things that help Pennsylvanians and help Americans. They look at the record and they know that we did what we say we're going to do. We secured the border. We returned American energy dominance. We cut regulations, cut spending. All these things are what are important to get the economy going again, and we've been doing that, delivering on those kitchen table issues, and that's going to be really important. Great record to run on. We have great candidates. I mean, we have incumbents like Rob Bresnahan. We're in his district right now, campaigning for him. Thanks for helping him. I mean, he represents northeastern Pennsylvania very well in Congress, and he's the kind of person you want doing that job. We got to work really hard to get him reelected, and we will, but he's one of those swing districts that are going to decide the fate of the country, and that's why we're working so hard. We got great candidates like him. We have a slight fundraising advantage over Democrats right now. Republicans over Democrats almost never happens. It hasn't happened in 10 years because people know the stakes are so high. The other big factors are we have President Trump. There's never been a second-term president that went out and campaigned like he was on the ballot, as this one is, because in a real sense he is. I mean, his name's not there, but his policies and his administration are. Right. If we lost it, it would be over. They would impeach him. They would turn all the committees of Congress into investigative bodies. The subpoenas would be flying like they were for Eric Trump. We can't allow that to happen. And so he's all in. We're going to have different factors and different things like a midterm convention. We've never done that before. That'll happen in September right for early voting. So at the end of the day, I'll summarize it this way. This is what Newt Gingrich told me the other night. He said, Mike, this is not a contract with America election year. This is a contrast for America. And the contrast is Republican common sense versus crazy. And their party increasingly is really gone crazy. They're full open Marxists. They're for open borders. keeping dangerous criminal illegal aliens in the country, putting men back in ladies' locker rooms and girls' sports, and trans surgeries without parental consent. I mean, every issue they're on the wrong side of, and I think voters are going to take that into account.
Well, that's a wonderful answer, and it provides a nice segue for me. You've hit the one part you already answered. I was going to say, paint what the country's House of Representatives will look like if the Democrats win. I've said zombie apocalypse to my viewers, and it would. Question number 2, and I actually heard a wonderful in a speech you gave an answer that I want to. There's a feeling right now of a certain malaise, and what I mean by that, it seems like, even from voters, I've heard a few people, they've written letters on the show, like, what's the point? Because with the Democrats basically throwing their temper tantrum and shutting down the government, it appears that nothing is going to be able to get done. So what's the point of all this? And how important are midterms? Because the Democrats will keep up their antics. Now, you gave wonderful answers about the bills you have in the pipeline that are going to get done through a technique called budget reconciliation. So would you explain to the voters some of the important bills that are coming up right now, this year, 2026? It's not going to be just a scrum like we've seen over the last couple of months. So what's coming from you, and why will it get done?
Well, we still have very important legislation to do before the end of this Congress, and we got 7 months to the election, and then we get to the end of the year, and so that'll be in the 2-year cycle. But we got to get the Farm Bill done. We got to get the National Defense Authorization Act done again. We have another round of appropriations coming up. All these things require bipartisan votes because we have the smallest margin in U.S. history. We have a 2-vote margin right now. Right. So you have to get some Democrats to come along. But we do use the reconciliation bill. That process is the one tool in our toolbox that allows you to get something done with only 51 votes in the Senate instead of the 60-vote threshold. And so reconciliation is a key part of the agenda. There are some things we have to do on our own. There's some things that Democrats will refuse to do, frankly, because they don't want Donald Trump to get the credit for it in the Republican Congress. So the first big order of business right when we get back next week is we've got to get the Department of Homeland Security funded. And sadly, we're going to have to use reconciliation to do the most important components of that, because Democrats are actually going to go on record they're going to vote against any funding at all for immigration and customs enforcement and for the border. Believe it or not, they're going to put that on the record. So we have to do it ourselves. And so that's what we call a skinny reconciliation bill. Behind that one is what I call Reconciliation 3.0. And that's going to be more things basically along the lines of this theme of fraud. We're seeing fraud uncovered in the blue states right now. It's alarming. Hundreds of billions of dollars of fraud, wasted taxpayer funds. So we're going to have some legislation to bring that forward and go after the fraud, waste, and abuse. Also reduce the cost of living even further, and some other measures we can take to help hardworking American families. Right now they're experiencing what's going to be an economic boost. As soon as Iran and the conflict there settles down, we get oil prices back down to earth, then the cost of living will continue to go down because we infuse the legislation in the big, beautiful bill and these other reconciliation packages with pro-growth policies that are going to help everybody. And you're going to see that. The average family of 4 in the state of Pennsylvania is expected to have almost $11,000 more in their pocket in take-home pay just because of the changes we put into the legislation. So there's more of that to come. We're going to have to do it on our own. Sadly, Democrats have taken a side, and it is not the side of the American people.
No question about it. One thing I'd like to get, I'll make a statement, and I'd like to get your comment on this. I'm seeing shocking numbers, Mr. Speaker, of people leaving blue states.
Yeah.
And if there could be any better way to capture in a commercial to tell America the difference between the Republicans and the Democrats, we have effectively a scientific experiment going on in America. We just elected an open Marxist communist, Mamdani in New York. We have in Seattle, Chicago, the same thing. We have effectively openly Marxists in major blue states. And Americans in those states, businesses, people that produce major corporations, are moving their corporate headquarters. They're leaving in the millions, Mr. Speaker. So, and now, by the way, is I guess further, now those states are actually producing legislation to apparently tax them to death for leaving the state. So I have a question, just, as a person, I'm a lawyer, and I was a pretty good constitutional lawyer. I consider you a constitutional law expert. Are they allowed to do that?
Yeah.
Could they do that?
That's a great question. We were down in South Florida raising money in Palm Beach, and they told me that there is an actual revenue office from the state of California in South Florida, chasing California residents who have moved there. There is a mass exodus out of the blue states, California, New York, New Jersey, these other states. And of course, they're going to states like Texas and Florida and Tennessee and South Carolinas. It has huge implications. There are legal implications. I'm not sure how they can chase people down after they choose to move. This is a free country.
Yeah.
But the real implications, as I was addressing with the crowd here a little while ago, is that you think about what that's going to mean for the reapportionment of congressional seats. We do the census again in 2030, and then you see the mass exodus in the population shifts. That means those blue states are going to lose seats in Congress, and they're going to be awarded the red states. That's going to be a good outcome for the country because we'll be able to grow our majority to more than 2 or 3 at a time. And so we've got to get, this is sort of, I think of the midterm election sort of as a bridge. We got to keep this going so we get to that next phase and we can really fix the country.
One part of the message relative, particular to Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and to the districts that you're up here helping campaign in. I was at a round table about a week or so ago, hosted by my good friend Dave McCormick, our new United States Senator, who you know very well, obviously, a good guy. He hosted this, and he brought in the FBI Director, Kash Patel. And on that dais were with him David Metcalf, the United States Attorney for the Eastern District, Justice Department, Dave Sunday, the Attorney General for Pennsylvania. They're talking about the fentanyl scourge and the impact that they're having. And one of the things, to your earlier remarks, border security is critical to that war. And they're defunding. Right now, as we speak, they're
100%.
defunding Homeland Security. And the second thing was, well, among other things, was that the amount of Medicaid fraud, Dave Sunday, this year alone, in criminal prosecutions, Mr. Speaker, recovered $41 million, just in this year alone. So is that an issue that you think will play in the campaign? They're trying to paint this issue, meaning the Democrats, as, look what they're doing, they're shutting down Medicaid, and you keep trying to tell the American people, no, it's just a fraud. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. What we've done is strengthen Medicaid because we eliminated the fraud, waste, and abuse. We had all sorts of ineligible recipients riding the wagon. For example, young able-bodied men who are capable of working, they were on the wagon getting public benefits and sitting at home literally playing video games. We have studies that show this was happening. So the Republicans went in and said, this is madness. Again, applying common sense. We got those people off of the Medicaid roll and back to work. It's good for them individually, their families, communities, and all that. That's the kind of thing that the kind of reforms that we put in. Now, this fraud thing is an increasing theme, and you're going to see it as we get closer to the midterms. We have only just scratched the surface. These blue states have been abusing it. And states like California, you're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars of waste and fraud of taxpayer funds. And this is a 98% public opinion polling issue. People are furious when they find out that it's being stolen like that. They're being taxed and the money's being stolen. We're on the right side of that issue, as we are on all of them, and it's going to be a big thing in the election. I think there's got to be accountability, and we need the DOJ. There's new leadership there, as you know. They're going to have to put some pelts on the wall, so to speak, and hold some people accountable because you got to make an example of some folks. They send that message.
Well, for our audience, the reason the Speaker of the United States of America is in Northeast Pennsylvania this day is to help come up here and promote elections that matter for this country and for this state, and the importance of Pennsylvania to this country. And standing behind me are my two good friends, United States Congressman Dan Meuser and United States Congressman Rob Bresnahan. The Speaker has taken time out of his busy schedule running the House of Representatives of America to come up and talk about how important these two are in this region, in the state, and the importance of Pennsylvania is to this country for them keeping the majority. They helped turn the few seats that gave the small margin you enjoy. So I just want to turn it over to Speaker about his two colleagues since he's here with us today.
Well, thank you for that. And these are not only two of the best members of Congress, they're two of my closest friends and confidants and men that I rely upon and trust. There are workhorses and there are show ponies. These are two of the workhorses. These guys get it done. And as the president says about both of these guys and said as recently as today, they're straight out of central casting, okay? Because they get the job done. They bring a lot of acumen, a lot of know-how to the table. They serve on the most important committees in Congress because we need their wisdom there. And they're getting it done for Pennsylvania. Northeast Pennsylvania is so well represented. Dan Meuser could be in any office, I think, anywhere, but I'm grateful he continues to serve in the House. He's come back for another term, and he'll get reelected. And Rob Bresnahan is one of the top races, most contested seats in America, really top 5 race. And Democrats are spending huge amounts of money to try to kick him off of his pedestal here. It's not going to happen. He won and he flipped a blue seat to red last cycle in 2024, and we're going to hold it this time because he has delivered on his promises. His promises made, promises kept, and this is the guy you need back. So I'm delighted. I mean, the Speaker of the House, they want me to be in every district, but I'm going to be in Pennsylvania a lot because I'm telling you, this is not an overstatement. These guys know. Pennsylvania will help decide the future of the country. It's going to come down to a handful of seats, and these are the ones we got to win.
Well, thank you for that, Mr. Speaker. This is a perfect time to take a break. The Speaker has to go on to other duties, and we'll finish our show with Rob and with Dan. Again, thank you so much,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Speaker.
Sure enough.
Bill, welcome to the Volpe Report.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I'd like to tell our audience, and I wanted to take this time to do so. I have been in your beautiful home, and it is gorgeous. This is just one room, many times. You are one of the leading business leaders in this entire region of Pennsylvania. You're one of the greatest philanthropists in Northeast Pennsylvania. And I have been at your home many times for occasions like this. So I wanted to take a special time to say personally thank you to you for making your home available, because for the Republican Party, you have become a major cog. So I'd like to now turn it over to you. And why do you do all the great things you do for our area and allow your home to be used and as a major host for the top people in this country?
Well, it's an honor to do this. Being a migrant, I grew up in Mexico, and being here in this country that has absolutely allowed me to develop so much. This country doesn't owe you anything, but it offers you an opportunity if you take it. And I was very blessed to be able to do so. And as I always tell people, I'm a Mexican by birth, but I'm an American by choice, and a human being by an act of God. So anything I can do to help this incredible country, I do the best I can. So,
well, it's great to hear a person who is a first generation. You came here yourself, not your parents. You came here as an immigrant, and you are among the most successful people in, as I said, in the business community, not only of the Northeast, of all of Pennsylvania. And you are a living example of the abundance, if you work hard and you do the right things, that this country provides. And you even came here legally. So the idea that somehow the Republican Party wants to shut down immigration and close up the border, no, that's not true. We're just closing the illegal open border we had under Biden. So it's wonderful. You can hear, you're the epitome of the American dream.
My view is very much aligned with that. Immigration, of course, I believe in immigration, but our party does it the right way, and the right way that it should be done. Just where your ancestors came the right way, and we can't break those rules. Those are sacred rules that keep this country in place.
Well, I want to say again, to close out, that thank you very much. You have a beautiful home, and this is just one room of that home, and it affords me the opportunity to sit down with some of the leaders of this country, and you are one of them. Thank you,
Thank
Bill.
you very much. Thank you.
My pleasure. Bill Rosado.
There are more places you can see the Volpe Report. Watch every Sunday morning at 10:30 on Fox 56, or watch on YouTube at the Volpe Report. More ways to watch. Still the same premier political talk show dedicated to the topics that matter most to Pennsylvanians.
Welcome back. And as you know, we just, of course, the Speaker of the United States just left us. And he, much more eloquently than I, talked about the importance of the two gentlemen sitting to my right. These are two of my most regular guests. Of course, the title goes to you, though, Dan, because he has more seniority. No one has been on my show.
I'm going to try to keep my title.
No one has been on my show more than my good friend, Congressman Dan Meuser. But catching up, and I have a feeling because Dan has done such a great job, and in his district, he wins with, 72% of the vote last time? Is that correct? Or was it more than that?
It was about 72%.
72 to 28. They don't even run against him. They had some stiff that puts their name on the ballot. But the reality is that they don't even bother challenging him. They don't hit him with attack ads. But sitting to my direct right, U.S. Congressman Rob Bresnahan, he, on the other hand, it just shocked the world. He knocked out a 6-term House Appropriations Chairman, no less. A seat the Democrats had thought was invulnerable, and many had tried and failed, and Rob did it. And what Rob did last time, along with our good friend who's been on the show a bunch of times, Ryan McKenzie, they were effectively the margin that exists in the House of Representatives. That's how important this region is. I would first like to turn to Rob. The speaker came in specifically to campaign with you, Rob. He campaigned with you. He just had an event here at Bill Rosado's wonderful home, talking about your virtues, talking about how important your seat was. So basically, talk about your day with the speaker today and your relationship, really, because he made clear what he thinks of you. Well, how important is he to America?
Well, Chuck, first, as always, I'm working on a close second here to Congressman Meuser, and one day I'll get 73% in my district.
Yes, you will.
And you are sitting with the majority of the House. As of yesterday's election in Georgia,
That's it.
We have a 2-seat majority. So
right here.
It is sitting here right now. So take your vitamins, make sure we know where all of our exits are. But anytime you have an opportunity, I mean, if you think about the succession to the president, it goes the president of the United States, it goes the vice president of the United States, and then Speaker Johnson. So whenever you have an opportunity, we get to see him so often in Washington and work together on different pieces of legislation and what's important for our district, I think you kind of take it for granted when you see him out in the wild like this. And we obviously are incredibly grateful to have him here, but he has probably one of the toughest jobs, I would say, in Congress. When you're thinking about the ideological values of the Republican conference and where you are looking at people who represent swing districts like myself versus other members that are in different districts, such as ones that win by 73%.
Safe districts, as they say.
You have to be able to thread the needle. But at the end of the day, you need to be able to govern. You need to be able to legislate. It's very easy when you're in the minority to just kick and scream and yell and complain about everything that the other side is doing. But when you have to govern and you have a responsibility to the people, like the speaker had said about how many hundreds of pieces of legislation that we've been able to move through the House of Representatives has been incredible. The executive orders for the president that we've been able to cauterize. So these are the results in which we are delivering. And we're talking about the Working Family Tax Cuts Act and the $50 billion Rural Transformation Fund and how the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania will receive close to $1 billion over 5 years, $192 million a year for the next 5 years to really reinvest.
We did a show on that.
We did. And it's about reinvesting into our rural health care and making a long-standing difference for the people of northeastern Pennsylvania. And before I turn it over to my good friend, Congressman Meuser, we did the math last year. We did, in one calendar year, we were in Washington, D.C. 174 days. We still did 351 in-district events. We're talking to people. We're listening to our constituents, and we're taking that feedback down to Washington and advocating for northeastern Pennsylvania.
Right. Well said, and that's why he values your leadership in northeastern Pennsylvania. That's why he left a very busy schedule. He has his home district he still has to pay attention to, of course, and then he's the Speaker of the United States, too. So it says a lot, though, that he took the time to come up. And I know he was earlier in the morning, around lunchtime, he was with Ryan McKenzie, another good friend of this show and another person that I think highly of and support. Now we're going to turn our attention to quote-unquote safe seat. So just in case, and I guess it would be fair to take from this that therefore Dan has an easy road ahead of him. He's going to get 70-some% of the vote again and all that. Well, let me correct that impression because I know differently. What he does, since he has a safe seat, is work his behind off, helping Rob, helping other congressmen in Pennsylvania, and helping the President of the United States. So, and that's not hyperbole. I had the good fortune to be with the President and Dan at an event that the President hosted, or attended. The host was at Mar-a-Lago, and the specific host was the President's best friend, Jim Worthington, who was originally a Pennsylvania guy. He's a member at Mar-a-Lago and hosted that event. And to hear the President talk about what Dan did for him in 24, traveling the country and helping him win the presidency of the United States. What Dan did for senators like Dave McCormick, what he's done for Rob Bresnahan and other congressmen that I know about. And, so he might be just as busy as Rob is this election season, and he has the luxury of not having to worry about his own seat. But he understands that if he doesn't do what he does, raising money for them and doing what he does, he's going to be in the minority and probably getting subpoenas and all the other things that they're going to do. So with that, Dan, talk about what you do. I've kind of telegraphed it, but what
we would most definitely be in the minority if Rob loses his seat. And we need to appreciate what that actually means. Today we saw Mike Johnson at his normal way. We see him every day, Rob and I, being the most honest purveyor of information and policy and planning and earnestness and God-fearingness of any individual. That's probably the main reason that I spoke today and I said he's the ideal speaker. He's a conservative, but he's practical. He gets along with Democrats. What he doesn't get along with is Democrat policies. And I would just say as do Rob, we have friends that are Democrats. Their leadership plans are terrible for America. And the people viewing this, and in Rob's district and in my district, need to critically think and look at what the policies are. Look, I wouldn't be winning by 70%, by the way, if we didn't work our tails off all the time. My district knows this, for constituent services, the right level of communications, project management on anything that's in the interests of Northeast and Central Pennsylvania, and legislation. That's also there. But what's important is the policy and what we work on every single day. And what we work on is strengthening the United States of America, strengthening Pennsylvania, strengthening our districts. What they work on is creating big government. And I mean that, right? We want, and making things up, stating things that are simply not true. I've said this on your show before. The ads they run against Rob Bresnahan are not 90% mistruths. They are 100% lies when it comes to the health care, when it comes to tax credits or tax cuts for billionaires. We don't have any billionaires in our district.
They have them. They have them.
But what they're the taxes, the thousands and thousands of small businesses that they voted to raise their taxes by 25%. Okay, those aren't billionaires. Those are people struggling, trying to make it. Those are people that do the employment and can hire more people and can pay higher wages. The regulations that everybody lives with, how difficult it is to build anything in Pennsylvania. They want to build them up because they want to build up government. We have a fundamentally different, we're very much the same people, but they have one plan, literally taking us to big government and big regulation and let government do everything for you and tax you as high as they can in order to deliver on their political promises. Our plan is big economy, big family successes, right? The success of families, individuals, of businesses, not of growing a government, but growing the economy. And I'm here to tell you, we will continue to spout the truth, just like Mike Johnson was today. And I just say to everybody, review what's being stated, critically review it. If you don't think I'm accurate what I'm saying, let's hear from you. But we are about information. The other side is about misinformation and misleading. That's what they're betting on.
Well, regrettably, we are out of time, and I hope you enjoyed today's show. You heard from, as Rob very well pointed out, the third most powerful man in this country, in line to the presidency, second in line to the presidency. The third one is Mike Johnson. And he's up here campaigning for this guy because of how important he is. And we are very lucky to have my dear friend in multi-term. It'll be 5 terms coming up for you this time, right? 5 terms? Believe it or not, 10 years.
This would be my 5th term, yes. And
time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah.
And with that, we look forward to getting you back here next Sunday with another show. But thanks for joining us today. Thanks for joining us for this edition of the Volpe Report podcast. Be sure to visit our YouTube and Facebook pages for upcoming episodes. You can catch up on the Volpe Report podcast on your favorite podcast provider.